I'm Tracy Chi. I'm the author of We Are Not Free, a novel and stories about the Japanese American incarceration in World War II. I'd like to start this one with a confession. History was never my favorite subject in school. As a teenager, I just didn't understand why the list of names and dates and far-off wars should matter to me. But as I've been on this journey of writing historical fiction, I realized that history is so much more than that. It's full of stories, so many of them still undiscovered, and I've been lucky enough to stumble across some of them in my research. And now, I get to share them with you. Okay, time for some context. By January 1943, the US had been at war for over a year, and more than 100,000 people of Japanese ancestry, most of them American citizens, had been incarcerated behind barbed wire fences for most of that year. Outside the camps, anti-Japanese racism was still going strong, and so it was decided that Nisei, second-generation Japanese American citizens, should be allowed to volunteer for armed service in a special all-Nisei fighting unit to prove to the rest of the country that Japanese Americans were just as loyal as anyone else. Now, people were rightfully skeptical. If they were just like anyone else, why did they have to be segregated? When they went into battle, would they be considered expendable, cannon fodder to be thrown at the enemy, just so the other soldiers would survive? Moreover, what did they have to prove in the first place? They were the ones whose rights had been violated. Despite this, however, nearly 3,000 Japanese Americans from Hawaii volunteered, followed by another 1,500 from the camps. They'd go on to become the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, the most decorated unit in US history for its size, with thousands of medals for their service on the battlefields of Europe. I knew when I was outlining We Are Not Free that I wanted to talk about the 442nd at some point because I knew my great uncle had been a part of it. So, one of the first books I picked up as part of my research was an old copy of Go for Broke, a pictorial history of the Japanese American 100th Infantry Battalion and the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. I love this book for so many reasons. 1, it has a ton of pictures. 2, there's this summary of what happened at the beginning of each chapter. But 3, the main part of the text are excerpts from interviews with guys who were actually there and actually did these things. Now, I'd known a little bit about the 442nd before, but this book really taught me so much about what these Nisei soldiers went through. Their basic training at Camp Shelby, Mississippi, the way the 100th Infantry Battalion tackled Monte Cassino in Italy with the 34th Infantry Division again and again and again, almost taking this objective that it later took 5 Allied infantry divisions to do together. And then how the 442nd got to Italy and threw themselves into war. I mean, with the kind of bravery you really only see in books and movies. Guys taking out tanks and machine gun nests, guys stepping up when their officers get wounded, guys going AWOL from field hospitals because they want to get back to their unit, and guys dying. There's this famous story about the 442nd. They're sent to France, right along the eastern border where the enemies dug in, because if the Allies get through, they're in Germany. So the 442nd is fighting in these forests and it's raining constantly. So they're never dry and they're never warm. And they're taking this hill, they're taking that hill. The Germans are taking it back the next day, so they've got to take it again. They're getting surrounded and they got to break through again. And then they get these orders to rescue the lost battalion. 200 guys from the 141st Infantry who are surrounded by the enemy. And they do. They go in there and they suffer an estimated 800 casualties by the time they break through to the lost battalion. Some companies of 150 to 200 soldiers walk out with less than 20, but they do it. I knew this was the legacy of the 442nd, and I was reading all these old camp newspapers to figure out exactly how the US government had asked for volunteers and how people had reacted, and I came across this very short column from April 27, 1943. First 10 to be inducted into Army. And there's my great uncle's name. At age 22, he's one of the first volunteers from Topaz to join the 442nd and be a part of this incredible history. And I know it's such a small thing. It's just his name in a list of other names, but having that connection, knowing that this was a 22-year-old kid from San Francisco, my great uncle, really made me understand that yes, history is sometimes names and dates and far-off wars, but the amazing thing about it is that these were real people. They lived real lives and had real families and were part of real stories. Incredible stories. You can check out all the past issues of the Topaz Times, the camp newspaper, at Utah Digital Newspapers, which is part of the collection of the Marriott Library at the University of Utah. And if you want to learn more about the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, I recommend checking out the Go for Broke National Education Center. It's located in LA, but they have an online archive of oral histories where you can listen to Japanese Americans tell their stories in their own words. I'll leave both of those links in the description for you.